Alright, so today's video is going to be about how to make homemade jelly. We're going to make homemade jelly here on the ranch. So this is just simple jelly, and there's a lot of variations, but I'm going to show you one way. Okay, so alright, so this is I took a bag full of fruit medley mix that I bought at Safeway. Great big old bag. And then I put it in my Ninja blender and I just blended it up real good, and then I dumped it in this pot and it was frozen. It's frozen fruit, so it's about the cheapest you're gonna find in the middle of winter. And I kind of like it. It's a lot of pineapple and strawberries and stuff in it. And so then I got my Ninja blender and I took a small bag of cranberries and I blended them up, and I poured half of it in there because I'm gonna use this half on something else. And I put about 1.5 cups of raisins in it, and about 1.5 cups of walnuts, and then I put 2 cups of sugar, and I put 1 cup of Splenda in it, so it doesn't have quite so. It was about 1.5 cups of sugar and 1 cup of little over 1 cup of Splenda. So 1.5 cups of sugar, 1 cup of Splenda. And now we gotta, I'm cooking it for a while, and then I'm gonna bring it to a rolling boil for about 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna add my pectin. Okay. Okay, so now I just put, you got to read the type of pectin or Sure-Jell or whatever you're going to use to thicken it and make it gel. But I put 10 tablespoons of pectin in this. And I'm just going to stir it, and I'm going to bring it up to a boil for about 1 minute, 2 minutes, and then it's ready to jar. Okay, now I got to take a ladle, and I got jars, and I got this funnel, and I put the funnel in there. Then you take your jelly, put it in the jar, and you want to leave a little head space so you don't fill it completely up. You give it a little shake like that. And then put it on the next jar, so you get a little head space about to where the threads start. And then you don't want this water to be boiling, but you want it real hot. So I get it boiling, shut it off, and then I put the seals. You have to have brand new seals, and this little magnet thing picks them up nice. And then you put your ring on and tighten it real good. Okay, so now you got the jars all full. You put the lid on as tight as you can get it. If you have a water bath canner, that's fine. I'm just using whatever old pot. And you get the water boiling, and then you put your jars in there. You want to have about 1/8 inch of water, see, on top of the lids. But you don't have to. They don't have to be 5 inches under the water. Okay. Just about 1/8 inch under the water is fine. You get it boiling, and you boil them and once it starts boiling again, then you boil it for 10 minutes. And then you can shut it off, and you can take the jars out and let them cool, and then they should seal. This little tool I was using earlier, just a plastic stick with a magnet on the end of it. And you can get them at most canning supply places, any place that sells canning jars and canning stuff. But if you can't find one there, you can go to any automotive store like O'Reilly's or anywhere, and they have ones for like picking up lost bolts and stuff out of engines. It's the same thing, it's just a stick with a magnet on it. You make your own, that's all. And I think they're like $5 at $5-6 at an automotive place. But you can make your own for nothing. All you need is a stick and a magnet and some glue. All right, we're gonna boil this 10 minutes, and I'm gonna take them out and let them cool. Okay, so they've been boiling 10 minutes. I got this fancy tool. You can get these at any canning supply place, or you can just try to use a pair of big tongs if you don't have them. But these are really nice because I dump the wire off the top, and I take them over. I set them on a kitchen towel to let them cool. And that's about it. And just wait for them to cool. So as these cool off, they're really, really hot right now. You don't want to touch them, and you don't want to touch the top of the lids at all. You want to let them just cool off all by themselves. Probably taking out a couple hours or so. Don't try to rush it. Just let them cool on their own. So after the cans have cooled, you want to go ahead and twist the rings. Make sure they're good and tight. But they got to be totally cool, like cold, Now you take this. See if I tap on that, the lids are they're kind of concave, just barely. You can feel it, but they're down. Now if you get a lid that's up and it goes clink, clink, clink up and down, that didn't seal, and that means that you can just eat it, put it in the fridge and eat it within the next couple of weeks. It's fine, but you don't want to try to store that on the shelf because it didn't seal. Okay, and then once you're done, this is from the last batch I made. These are the ones I just made. Now the ones I made are mixed fruit. This one's mixed fruit, berries, mixed berries, cranberries, walnut. So, and I used half sugar, half Splenda, right? So I write half sugar and I put the date on it. Now, this is not a true jelly. What they call it is they call it a conserve, okay? And I like conserves, but I also like, true jellies, which is just like berries or raspberry or strawberry but this is a mixture, and I kind of enjoy that better. I kind of make different kinds of jellies, so I have different ones. Now, so that's sealed. So those are good. All right. So now there's another kind of canning that you can do. Say you don't have I showed you guys how to do this. This is just regular canning jars, rings, and seals, okay? You can only use the seal one time. Well, after you use the seal one time, then you still use it to cover your jelly while it's in the refrigerator or something like that. But before you can again, just throw that away. You got to buy new seals, and you can buy just the lid, the seal part. This is a seal. This is a ring. Okay, rings you can use over and over and over and over. The seals you have to buy new ones. So they come in a little box. You can get regular size, or you can get the large mouth size, or whatever. Now, this is a surefire way to can something and have it last, for years and years on your shelf. So just like any canned good. But there's another way to can jelly. Say you don't have these kind of jars, you don't have the rings, you don't have the seals, you don't have any of that. Another way is to use whatever jar you have. So say you have some, pickled beets or some pickled, even sweet pickles or something like that, and you use it all, and then you wash the jar. And of course you're gonna have the lid, right? Well, that lid, you can't use it to seal a jar. It won't seal it. But you can cap the jar with it. So an old way of doing this, it's not as good a way, but it is a way, and it's also a cheap way. You can use just a regular jar to can with, but you can use a regular jar like that and just put your jelly in it and put it in the refrigerator. If you just want to make 1 or 2 jars of jelly, put it in your refrigerator. It's good for a month, just eat it, and it's gone, and it was good, and you're good. But say you want to do quite a bit of jelly, like I'm doing, and you want to can it so it'll last a while. Then what you do is you take your like olive jar, whatever kind of jar you have, and if it has a lid, that's okay, that's good. So you wash it out real good. You can take those type of jars, you can put it in boiling water for 10 minutes. That'll sterilize the jars. Then you take the jars out, dump the water out of them, put them on the countertop, and then take your hot liquid jelly that we made earlier, and you fill the jars, but you leave about an inch of space from the top of the jar. So you would leave probably that much space, quite a bit and if you use larger jars, you have plenty of room. So but leave at least an inch of space. And then what you do at the same time, before you fill the jars, you get some of this Gulf wax. It's paraffin wax, and it's made for canning or candle making, and they've been using this for 100 years. Okay. You can see on here, the little fabric that they put on it. But what you do is you take this Gulf wax, and it comes in. It's just paraffin wax. It's just clear wax, and you take it, and if you wash out, say you wash out like a metal coffee can, or if you wash out something like that, you don't want to use one of your pots. It'll mess it all up. So what you do is you melt this on the stove on low, melt it in a can. So like if you had a can of corn and you washed it out, take this, put a bar of this in it, and then you put it on low heat on your stove, low to medium heat. Melt the wax, okay? It's already melted. So then, as you're filling your jar, you fill it all the way to about an inch from the top. Then you pick up the can with your melted wax, and you pour it carefully inside the jar until it gets close to the top of the rim, and then about a half inch of wax, okay? And then you just let it sit and you let it cool. After it cools off, then you can take whatever lid you have and just screw over the top. It kind of protects it, right? And then after you open it, to eat it, then you have a lid for it, because that way you're not putting it in the refrigerator without a lid. So what you do is you pour the wax in there. When it cools off, it creates a seal, and because the jelly was super hot and sterilized when you put it in the sterilized jar, it keeps everything and it creates a seal. So it's canned, okay, it's sealed, but you have to leave it in the cabinet somewhere. You can't take it in the truck, bounce it around. You can't leave it in the heat or in the weather, because if that wax shrinks and the seal gets broken, then the jelly's no good. So you just leave it on your cabinet. It's probably good for a year or so in there. But if you leave it in your cabinet, that way you can eat a jar or two here for this month, and then in a few months you can get out another one and have another one. In a few months, have another one, and by the time the year's over or so, it's. But if the wax shrinks and it pulls away from the jar and breaks the seal, just throw it away. But that's a cheap way to. I think this big thing of Gulf wax would seal. Geez, I don't know how many jars, tons and tons of jars. It's like $10. So then all you need is your pectin, and you need your, cheap jars that you already have, and you already have a pot to boil things in. So that's about all you really need. So that's another way to can, and you can do it for a lot less expensively if you don't have canning jars and you don't have rings. I already have these things, so I just buy new lids all the time, So I wash them and reuse them all the time, and I just buy the new seals. That's it. But you can do it with this Gulf wax, and you can buy this Gulf wax for canning any place that sells jars and canning stuff. They have it at Walmart. They have it at Winco. They have it at Ace Hardware has it. I mean, Safeway even has canning things. You can buy this at Ace Safeway or anywhere. All right, well, I hope that helps you. Good luck canning your jelly. Well, I guess we have to have a little bit of a talk about the type of pectin you use, or a thickening agent. Now, there are recipes. If you go online, you can find how to make jelly without pectin, but you have to boil the fruit down to a certain consistency, and then it depends on what kind of fruit it is, right? So anytime you modify a recipe, you stand the risk of it not setting or gelling, you know. So, or it might gel to a degree, but it won't be completely gelled. And sometimes it takes up to a couple of weeks for it to actually gel. And sometimes if you put it in the refrigerator, it'll be a little thicker. But I mean, in that case, if it's elderberry jelly or blackberry jelly or raspberry or some kind of conserve, if it's still liquidy, I just pour it over my pancakes and call it syrup. You know, it's better than syrup to me, you know. But first kind you got this Sure-Jell, and it's a liquid. You can see right here, it says liquid. It comes in a blue box. They have 2 packets in one box, at least in this size. And on the back, it kind of gives you kind of a heads up. And it tells you, you know, quick recipes how to make jelly. Well, it will tell you how much to use for how much, fruit and how much sugar. I mean, this is kind of a new product, but I don't care for it. I really just don't. And the reason is because you can't change the recipe whatsoever. You have to use the amount of fruit they say, and you absolutely have to use the amount of sugar they say, or it will not set. And if you use any kind of Splenda or anything like that substitute, then it definitely won't set. You're gonna have to get more pectin, and that's, you know, none of it's real cheap, you know what I mean? So you don't want to waste it. But you do want your product to set. This is a different type of Sure-Jell, and it has a real nice layout. It's got a real nice. I don't have one open, but it has a real nice labeling on the inside, and it tells you exactly how much fruit, different kinds of fruit, how much sugar, and all that stuff. And you can modify this. I've had pretty good luck with it. But you basically have to, if you say you have half sugar and half Splenda or anything like that, you have to basically double the amount of this that you put in. Absolutely double it, because otherwise it's not going to set. Then you have Ball puts out this one. This is a different labeling. I bought one the other day, and it has a different label. I'm just assuming it's newer. I bought this last year. So this is Real Fruit Classic Pectin. And on this, if you pull back this label, which is probably real hard to do with one hand, but if you pull back this label, you can see right here, maybe, hang on, there we go. You can see right here, it tells you exactly how much fruit, how much lemon juice, how much of the pectin, and how much granulated sugar to put. Now again, I'm suggesting absolutely, if you use half sugar and half Splenda, or if you use just like a third sugar and mostly Splenda, absolutely double this amount, because it probably is not going to set even with this. But this I've had a lot better luck with. And then this is the newer, I'm assuming newer labeling. See that, it's a different color, green, but it's still made by Ball. And on the front it says low or no sugar needed pectin. This is my favorite by far. I put it in, again, the label peels back. It says the same exact thing as that one, but I used what they suggested. So for my batch, I was supposed to put, like, say, 8 tablespoons of pectin, and I put 12, and it set. And it wasn't set so hard that it was like, like Jello, like really hard, but it was set. So again, what I did was I used, I was supposed to use like 12 cups of sugar. Instead, I used 2 cups of real sugar. I used 2 cups of actually I used 4 cups of real sugar. I used 4 cups of real sugar and 4 cups of Splenda. And I used, instead of whatever it was called for, I think 8, I put 12, and then there was a little bit left in the jar, and I just dumped it in there, and it did set. It took, it had to cool off, and it had to sit for a day or two, but it did set. But this by far is my favorite one. Now, one of these, like in the hardware store or the grocery store, is about $10, $11, but if you order it online, you can find them. If you buy it in bulk, like if you do a lot of canning, or you plan to again next year, you can find like a 12-pack of these for like $80-$90. So essentially you get like 2 or 3 of them for free, at that, instead of buying them at the grocery store or somewhere. Otherwise they're going to be like, $11-$12, and this will make probably about a case and a half of half pints. So about 18 half pints, roughly, and that's if you're trying to use like at least half Splenda and a lot less sugar, because honestly, who needs all that sugar? It's terrible for people. But even at that, I mean, the jelly tastes wonderful, and you don't have any problems. So those are the problems that you're going to run into. Trying to decide what kind. Now, if you plan on putting sugar and you don't mind all that sugar, you want it to be really sugary sweet, go ahead. You can use any one of them and they'll probably work fine, but follow the recipe on the back. Don't deviate from that recipe. If you want to deviate from the recipe, then like I said, your best bet is going to be one of these two, and like I said, this one's my favorite, but this one's basically the same thing. But on this one, I know definitely double it. Whatever it calls for, at least double it. And then you probably won't have at least so many failures.